Welcome back to my Site Code Diaries, your ultimate guide to digital experience excellence, your go-to channel for all the things in site code and .NET. I'm your host Jitendra Jayanta Ganekar. I'm in Site Code Technology MVP 2024 and 2025. So you're watching a video from Debug Your Interview Skill. In this video series, we are trying to mock the interviews. We are trying to answer few interview questions like we are answering those in the interview sessions. So our target is first React and Site Code. So let's see what is today's topic. So today we are going to talk about React hooks. So we are going to answer few interview questions which are related to React hooks. Before proceeding ahead, if you like this video, please click on a like button to share this video and this video series with your friends and colleagues. And if you are new to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel and click on notification bell to get latest update from my Site Code Diaries. So let's see what is the first question we have. What are React hooks? Why were they introduced? So let's try to answer this question. React hooks are function which allows you to use state and the lifecycle features in the functional component. They are introduced in React 16.8 to avoid or to remove the dependency on the class component, and you can use functional component very easily due to the React hooks. What they are introduced in the React is first is the simplicity of the logic. So you can write your code in the functional component, which is much easier to write than the class component. Second thing is the custom hooks. If you're writing a custom hook, they can be used, you can reuse the code, so reusability of the code. And third, it avoids the confusion regarding the life cycle. So if hooks like useEffect are replace some of the life cycle methods, and now it is easy to use those useEffect without depending on the lifecycle methods. So these are the reasons React introduced hooks. Let's see what is in the presentation. So what are React hooks? Why they were introduced? So React hooks are functions that let you use state and lifecycle feature in functional component. They were introduced in React 16.8 to eliminate the need for a class component. Why were hook introduced? Simplify component logic, no need for a class component. Code reuse. Custom hooks allow easy use of a logic. Avoid lifecycle confusion. Hooks like useEffect replace component did mount, component did update, component will unmount. So there will be a confusion with which event should be used. So that confusion is removed because of the React hooks. I've given one example also here. So if you see here useEffect, it's a simple example of a hook you must have seen. I'm not explaining this, so it's a simple React hook example. Okay, now let's see what is the next question. What are the rules of React hooks? Let's try to answer the question. So there are two rules which we need to follow while using the hooks. First of all, hooks should be used at the top level. So it means that you cannot use the hooks in the conditional statement. You cannot use it into the loops, and you cannot use those in the nested functions. And the second rule is the hooks should be used in the functions only. So basically in the functional component you can use the hooks, and also in the custom hook, so you can use it. So these are the two rules. One is the only call from the top level, so it cannot be used within the statements, within the loop statement, within the conditional statement, or within the nested function. And second is it should be used in the functions only. So let's see what is there in the presentation answer of this question. What are the rules of React hooks? Only call hooks at the top level. As I said, don't use them inside a loops, condition and nested functions. Only call hooks from a React function. They must be used inside a React function and component or a custom. This is another question on this slide. So let's see that. What is the difference between useRef and useState? useRef and useState are two different hooks. So what is the difference between useRef and useState? So let's try to answer it. useState store a mutable references, like mutable values, so that cannot be changed and that cannot be re-rendered. So you know the React functionality, right? So if you change anything in that part of the component gets re-rendered. So useRefer is something where the variable the state will not be re-rendering. There you can use a use reference. useState you must have used many places. useState is where it is a state variable, and uh, it it re-renders the component. So if you see the example, like you are increasing the counter, you will use a useState, but you want to keep the focus of a text box, then that time you can use a useRef. So let's see what is answer. What is the difference between useRef and useState? So useRef stores some mutable references without causing a re-render. useState stores state variables and causes a re-render. That is very important. This useState causes a re-render and useReference doesn't cause a re-render. So example is given here. You can go through the example, like you have a useReference. So this input reference is your useRef. Okay, and if you see, it is used in input type of things, right? So useRef is used in input type, and what it is doing is input refs.current.focus. So it is keeping the focus on the input element. Okay, and this is not going to re-render. Okay, so this is what the difference between the useRef and useState. Okay, now let's see what is the next question. How does useEffect works? What are its dependencies? Okay, so let's try to answer it. useEffect performs side effects in the functional component. Now that what is that side effect? The side effect can be anything, like the timer, registration, or maybe some API calls. That it can be anything. So to perform that, useEffect is used. Now what are the dependencies? When you create a useEffect, you pass the dependencies. If there are three types of dependencies which you can pass. First, if you are passing the empty array, it means it will run only once. Okay, if you pass the state variable in it, so it will run whenever that state variable is changed. And third thing is, if you are pass empty things, no array, not the empty array, no array, nothing is passing, then that will render every time. The useEffect will run every time when the component is rendering. So let's see what is there in the presentation. So how does useEffect work? What are dependencies? useEffect performs side effect in function component. Example, API call, subscription, timer. Now dependencies of three dependencies, as I said. Empty runs only once, like it's like a on mount event. State variable if you are passing, then runs when the state variable changes. No array, it runs on every render. So there is an example also we are given here. So here of fetching, you are fetching the here is a API call, that is a side effect where you are using the useEffect. And if you see here, there is an empty array is part, which means it will runs once on mount. So let's see what is the next question. So the next question is, what is the difference between useState and useReducer? So nice question. So useState are used for a simple state changes, and useReducer are used for the complex or a conditional state changes. The example is, like if you have a counter which will, there is a button where on click of that counter will get increased. So that's a one dimensional data, and one thing is happening. In that case, it's a simple addition of a number, so it's you go for a useState. But there are some conditions involved, like you will have two buttons. You add I'm giving a simple example, it can be complex also. So if you have two buttons, one is for increasing the counter and another is for decreasing the counter. In that case, you can use a useReducer because there is a logic behind it. So the complex logic behind it, comparatively complex logic behind it. So if you have a complex logic, then you use the useReducer. So that is the difference between useState and useReducer. useState is used for a simple state changes. useReducer is used for the complex or conditional state changes. Let's see what's there in the presentation. So what is the difference between useState and useReducer? useState used for a simple state updates, and useReducer used for a complex state logic. State changes are straightforward, then useState is used when state transition involve multiple conditions, then useReducer is used. So here I have given you an example, the same example which I told you. We have a on-click event where it is getting incremented, and another button where the counter get decremented. In this case, we have used a useReducer here, and in the reducer, if you see there is a case condition, so switch is there. If increment, it will increase the number. If decrement, it will decrement the number. It's a comparatively complex one. I'm not saying it's a complex one, but I'm just giving an example that when there is a multiple condition, you can use a useReducer. When it's a straightforward, you can use a useState. While editing, I realize I have missed two very important questions on the hook, so I'm just adding those ones. So let's see those questions. What is the difference between useMemo and useCallback? So let's try to answer it. useMemo and useCallback both are used for optimization purpose. useMemo caches your computed fields or computed values, whereas useCallbacks caches your function. So it caches your functions. So that is the difference between useMemo and useCallback. Let's see. What is the difference between useMemo and useCallback? useMemo uses caches computed values. useCallback caches function. Let's see the next question, which is very critical. What are custom hooks? So custom hook is one of the feature in the React. So custom hooks are used to share your function or reuse your code or reuse your functions across the component. So you have a component A, component B, and both are trying to use the same thing. Then you can utilize custom hooks. So custom hooks, like if you can take an example, like if you are integrating with or you are consuming any API, then you can use the custom hooks, like that API consumption where the URL can be changed but both the components are consuming the API. Then you can have the custom hooks which can be shared or encapsulated between the two components, and this can be done by using the existing hooks. So let's see what is there on presentation. So what are custom hooks? A custom hook in React is a reusable function that lets you encapsulate and share logic between components using React built-in hooks. So you can use the built-in hooks to do that. And here is an example also here. If you see, useEffect is used here and fetching the URL. So you are actually consuming this URL, and this can be used at multiple places also. So that's how you can utilize this same function in multiple components, the same function. So that is the reusability of the code. So this is how custom hooks are used. Let's see next question. Okay, so we are done with the questions. I have just listed here most used React hooks. So in this video we talked about React hooks, but there are many hooks are there. So question can be anything. So I just note down the few hooks that there can be a combination of a question, like we have seen useMemo versus useCallback. There can be any other thing also. So we are just going through the most used React hooks. What is those in one liner, and then we can, if you want, you can go in detail. Also, we are not stopping here for the question. So there might be a few more videos on the hooks. So is there any question which you want me to cover? Let me know that in the comment section. Let's see what are the most used React hooks. First two, I am definitely sure that you must have used it. useState, that is manage component state. useEffect handles side effects, API calls and timers. useContext, that's the third one. It accesses the global state without prop drilling. So to accessing a global state, you use a useContext. useRef, we have seen that also. Store a mutable values without a re-render. Then we have a useReducer. Again, we have seen that. Manage complex state transition. useMemo, optimize performance by caching computed values. useCallback, optimize performance by caching function. Lastly, we have not seen in this video. So useLayoutEffect, it runs before the browser pane. So before browser pane, you can get a effect, useLayoutEffect, the more React hook. useImperative handle, expose function from child components. So if you want to expose any function from child component, you can use useImperative handle. And the last one is the useDebug value. To debug the custom hook, you can use useDebug value. So these are the most used React hooks. So we can prepare the questions on that. Let me know if you want anything else you want me to cover. So we are stopping here for today. If you like the video, please do click on a like button, share this with your friends and colleagues, If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel and click on notification bell to get latest update. And as I said earlier, that if you have any question related to Yak or Sitecore, you can put that question in the comment section. We will try to cover that in the next videos. So I will meet you in the next video. Till that time, happy coding. Thank you.